Call a meeting to order. Please join me for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming. This is our regular City Council meeting of March 10th, 2025. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Weber,
Here.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Persauter,
Here.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen. Here.
Need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next we move to public comment. Looks like, Mr. Gomer, you're the only one that signed in.
Thank you. See, today on the agenda, you got a second reading of the parking regulation amendments, Chapter 69. So I appreciate some of the changes y'all are looking at with that. Obviously, from the retail perspective, it would be beneficial for us downtown. But I'd also like for you to think about some other things that are changing downtown. We have more tenants in upstairs spaces downtown. And actually something that's come to light, after reading the regulations a little closer, a lot of our public lots, there's no parking overnight. So there's no overnight parking on streets in the downtown area, and there's no, technically by ordinance, there's no parking in the lots according to the ordinance, the way it reads today. That makes it a little difficult when we're trying to make spaces for people to live downtown, and yet we have no space for them to park. So hopefully that's something we can make a change to, and because the public lots, I don't think a lot of people realize. I didn't. I read over that thing, never even caught it, and it was brought to my attention Sunday. But hopefully we can get that cleaned up. But and I appreciate the stuff you guys are looking at for upstairs tenants for downtown, especially when we don't have access to the back parking lots to begin with. So with the parking permits you're looking at doing, so appreciate that, and hopefully we can get that change for the public lots also. One other thing that I'd like to bring up too was I was reading through the amendment. I was looking at the different lots that were labeled by like Lot A, Lot B, Lot C. Some of those had a name, some didn't, or you could tell by location. Was there a map or anything that goes along with that to know which lots those are?
We'll get to that when we get to that item.
Gotcha.
How many apartments do you have upstairs?
Right now I have 2.
Comment, we can't do this.
And then we'll have future, we'll have some more, but those will have designated spots.
Thank you, Peter. I appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept and approve the following consent agenda items. First is the minutes of the February 24, 2025 regular meeting. Second is the tobacco device retailer permit application for King Tobacco with tentative effective date of February 27, 2025 through June 30, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Oh,
No, that's right.
okay, he's right. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we move to the financials. I need a motion to approve the claims for payment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Anybody have any questions regarding those? No? Okay. All in favor then?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Next, we move to the bank reconciliation, item number 7. That's for information only. Does anybody have any issues or questions with regard to the bank reconciliation? Hearing none, we move to item number 8, which is the revenue and expenses to date. Again, this is for information only. Anybody have any questions with respect to that? Hearing none, we'll move to Chapter 69, Parking Regulation Amendments. This is our second reading. Before we get into the topic itself, this is the one that Mr. Gomer just spoke about as well. The current ordinance that we're talking about amending has downtown parking on the street, but it doesn't have it during the wintertime. It comes back February 28th or something like that, and then after that they're allowed to park there. So what we're doing is we're taking away that parking for the people from now until the winter. And the purpose for it originally, as I understand it, was for street cleaning with snow removal. So The other part is that we have always had the issue, the no parking in the city parking lots, but they're not marked. So a person that didn't read the ordinances or wasn't familiar with it wouldn't have that information. So I think we just need to be clear on some of that. So my thought is that we have a motion to table this until we have a chance to work out their language a little bit more on the work session. So can I get that motion from somebody?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second that.
Okay. This would be a roll call vote.
Do we want to have any other discussion about it tonight?
Well, is there anybody else that would like to discuss it tonight further?
The one thing I wanted to point out was an answer to Pete's question. So the lots are not labeled right now. And you read the ordinance, and it's not very clear what lot is what. The intention is to put signs up at each of those lots that indicate Lot A, Lot B, Lot C, so on and so forth. With that, we could also look at, or we should also look at signage, especially if we're going to keep the no parking from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Those signs should say that as well. We need to make it clear for people so that they understand what their, what the rules of that parking lot are.
And I would like to add on that too, Pete, just along with what Matt said. We did discuss that. It was just in our work session. So I'm sorry if you weren't here that night, you wouldn't have known that we had discussed the signage and identification item.
Right.
One other thing, and I'm glad you guys made the motion seconded, because I was going to make a motion also. When I was going over this Saturday, somehow it was an oversight or overlook, but according to the way it's currently written, from 2 to 6, there'd be no overnight parking in the city parking lots. And I'm totally against that due to the fact that we did talk about designated parking spots over in the city parking lot by the church for the residents above. But if somebody that's living above has company come over or something, where are those people supposed to park? So I think we should have a few, anywhere from 4, 6, or 8, depending on what the council would decide on if they went ahead with it, some designated spots where you can park overnight. So if a company is staying overnight within town, they have a place to park on the city parking lot. But, I think we need to definitely do more research and talk about it before we continue on with the amendment.
We also need to take into consideration that we do have a couple of places that serve alcohol downtown, and if we're eliminating overnight parking on the street and in the parking lot, we want these people to not drive when they're intoxicated or they feel uncomfortable driving.
Absolutely.
We don't have any place to allow them to go, and I think that that's something else we need to consider. We'll cover that in the work session then.
Well, in those 10 apartments, there's going to be some of them that have a couple living in them, and they're going to have 2 vehicles too. So you could have up to 20 vehicles, really.
Right, and we're only committed to the 10 over by St. John's.
By St. John's.
Okay.
So I think it's worth pointing out, too, that the regulation in the code that says no parking between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. has been there for a long time.
Right.
We definitely need to take a look at it, but that's part of the reason we added the new language that we did on there, because we knew with the downtown parking or the downtown housing coming, we had to do something, because otherwise we can sign or allow those parking lots to be, or parking stalls to be there, but then they're still technically violating the ordinance. So we've got to do something to
Exactly.
address that.
It needs updated and revamped.
Right.
Okay.
The other thing to consider too is the guy that goes around in Watersalt plants. He's going to need to be able to get in there too without
Right.
issue. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got to be considered.
Okay, well then, what we need, we have a motion and a second to table, so we would need a roll call vote on that, so if we could have that.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Brusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Passes 6-0, so 6-0, so that it's now been tabled. We'll table it, we're going to discuss this at the work session, which is next Monday. I know that that's an unusual time for us to meet, but because we canceled the meeting from the 3rd, we've moved that to the 17th, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll be discussing that then, and hopefully we can move forward with it at the next regular council meeting. Okay, let's move then to item number 10, which is similar. This is the Chapter 70 Traffic Enforcement Procedures Amendment, second reading. If I could start with a motion to approve the second reading of the ordinance pertaining to the Chapter 70 Traffic Code Enforcement Procedures.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. I don't see any reason with us not going forward with this one, because if we're going to have violations, we're going to have violations, and we won't have the violations, we won't actually have the violations until that we get Chapter 69 taken care of, but basically what we're doing here is we're allowing towing of the vehicles if they're bad offenders, and we're setting particular fines for the parking downtown. So that's something that we can talk about further if anybody has any further discussion with respect to that. Otherwise, we can take it to a vote on the
So
second reading.
everything in Chapter 70 would be applicable to any changes we might make to Chapter 69, is what I'm hearing you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's just that until we actually have something to enforce, we won't be enforcing it.
That works.
Okay, so this would then be a roll call vote on this?
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Brusader.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. Is anybody interested in making a motion to suspend the statutory rules so that we can have the third and final reading as to this Chapter 70 at this point in time, or do you want to just wait until next time?
Wait.
I'm in favor of waiting.
Okay, let's move forward then. All right. So next we move to the resolutions. First, we move to item number 11. This is discussing the acceptance of the work on the Highway 150 reconstruction project. So I need a motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the resolution to accept the Division 1 work covering the Highway 150 reconstruction project and to authorize the city manager to sign the remaining necessary paperwork.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. What we're doing here is we finished up the 150 project about 2 years ago, other than little items. This is the retainage, the $30,000 retainage that we have. And Crawford Engineering has looked at it and determined that everything is in order, so we're in a position to accept this so that we can release the retainage. So any other,
This starts the 30-day clock to release, and once the 30-day clock is up, we'll release the retainage.
correct. Anybody have any further questions or comments on that? Okay, that'd be a roll call vote then.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Brusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Next, we move to item number 12. This is to establish a date for a public hearing on a rezoning request from A1 to, which is agricultural, to R2, which is residential within the city. So I need a motion to set a public hearing on March 24, 2025, 5 o'clock p.m. for consideration of a rezoning request for A1 agricultural to R1 residential within the city of Independence, Buchanan County, Iowa. I need the motion first.
So moved. Second.
Okay, what we're talking about here, this is Steve G's development, and we were under the impression that we had changed it a long time ago, but we couldn't find any records indicating that we officially did it. So what we're doing here is we're allowing Steve to move forward with the building of additional homes, approximately 20 between the homes and the condominiums. And this is the area between which streets?
Between Juniper and Spruce on the west side of 6th Avenue Southwest.
Okay. It's high dollar stuff. So there'll be a new road and water and sewer that will, it's in your district, of course it is high. This would, we will also be, if they build the homes and we get the plats to do that, this would also involve adding another entrance exit to that development, which doesn't have much over there, so that'll help us with fire protection, et cetera. Also, we would be able to get, as part of the negotiations that we're having with Steve G, we'd also be dealing with the street itself and water and sewer itself, so we'll work on all that. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion with respect to this item? Okay, roll call vote then.
Moore,
Yes.
Brusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0 as well. Next, we move to item number 13, which is a resolution to approve a preliminary plat of survey for a boundary line adjustment. I need a motion to accept and approve the preliminary plat of survey for the boundary line adjustment for Lori Cleveland.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. The reason that we're doing this has to do with the fact that we've got a garage which is on a lot, and as a result of that, we need a boundary line adjustment. So that's the purpose of it.
Sure.
Is that combining two lots then?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
And was there a builder's permit for that garage?
I don't know if there was a building permit for it when it was originally built or not. Mr. Chesmore could possibly answer that.
Ms. Cleveland came to me on an inspection request, and that's when we found out there was not a permit applied for at that time.
After the garage was built?
In the middle of it, yes.
They did obtain a permit at that point.
I have not issued a permit on this building yet because of the zone.
Okay.
issue something that's
Is
was done
the,
illegally.
Because it's a violation of our zoning ordinance.
is the garage built, though?
It is.
Okay, and you didn't have to do any sign-off on the garage itself?
Haven't done no inspection,
Okay,
so no permit, no inspection.
This process gets completed, then she can do the building permit, and we can get the inspection done and get it all taken care of.
And Ms. Cleveland knows all the rules now.
Because technically,
It's done backwards.
it couldn't have been built until this zoning took place.
That's correct.
Right. Had a building permit have been applied for originally.
It
wouldn't
should have been
It
denied.
wouldn't have been, right, it wouldn't have been allowed until this was done.
I'm not quite sure how it got started with the concrete slab that was even put in there. Ms. Cleveland was probably the last one to really throw the focus of the blame on. Should have been the contractor maybe that did this work.
Right.
And, but,
okay, well, this is our chance to fix it, so here we go.
yep, we are. And she's been very forthcoming. As soon as I told her that, she went off and hired professionals to get it done.
Okay, sounds good, okay.
you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Any further discussion with regard to this? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote also.
Pursader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Hannah.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Next, we move to item number 14, which is the 28E agreement, the school resource officer. I need a motion to approve the 28E agreement with the Independent Community School District for the school resource officer program, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Before anybody gives me the motion itself, we have one change to the agreement itself. On page 5, item E, it says student resource officer. In E and in F, it says school resource officer. So we would change E to read school resource officer to be consistent,
It
and
was a typo.
just a typo, and we've already discussed this with the school district, and they're fine with making the change as well. So with that change, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion with the change.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, discussion, anything with regard to this?
We had this agreement last year, right? That was the first year of it?
We have never had the agreement itself in
We
place.
discussed
We
it.
didn't.
We did discuss it, we were interested in doing it, but
We didn't.
well, my understanding is at the time, the school was looking at their budgeting and what the state was doing with respect to their funding, and we needed to be in a position where this wasn't costing the city money in order to do this, and we've worked that out, and as a result of that, we're in the position to be able to approve it at this time.
So what's the city's share?
So the only thing the city's going to be paying for is the time that they work, that the officer works for us. The way this is structured, the school pays for actual time worked out there. So if they're working at the school district, that time will be clocked separately and accounted for, and then the school will reimburse us for that time.
I discussed with you earlier, the payment for the training for the SRO.
So that's a question I'd like to ask Cynthia, if you don't mind coming up. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to kind of put you on the spot.
Thank you for coming.
One of the things that Councilman O'Laughlin asked about related to this, and we've not had any discussion about this, so if you feel like you need to talk to the school board about it, I understand. But we had, Councilman O'Laughlin and I chatted a little bit before the meeting about the training time for the officer to get trained to be a school resource officer, and whether or not the school would be interested in helping any kind of reimbursement for that, and maybe we could maybe modify the agreement so that it adds something that commits us to a 12-month contract, or I don't know. There's lots of different ways we could structure that. I don't know if that's something the school would be interested in helping with or not, but just thought I'd kind of throw that out there.
So our board approved the contract in front of you that says the city is covering all of that time, so we would need to take it back to our board and give them the opportunity to discuss it. Typically, the employer, who is the city in this case, is responsible for costs of any training or certification upkeep or things like that. So I'm not
And
saying
that's-
we're against it, we would just need to.
Well,
And that's also the
for
reason.
specific training for an officer, if they weren't doing the job of SRO, there would be no need for the training. So,
And depending on who it is,
Yeah.
they may already have the training,
right.
so it's going to
Which would
depend
be
on.
bonus. I mean, that would be great.
Do we have an officer designated for this?
There'd be a bid process that needs to occur because of the union and the police department.
And would our cops be pretty well trained for that, Brian?
So in answer to that, yes. We have a bid process through the union, and once that bid job was assigned to a specific person, they would attend the SRO training. And I think the next training for that is coming up in June. So they would be fully trained for that.
And how much training is that and cost?
I think it's a week-long training.
Yeah, that's
and
what I-
I'd have to look at the exact cost of it. I don't have a number on that for you. I mean, but we have probably lodging, meals, transportation, and whatever the class fee is.
Maybe a 50/50 agreement could be worked out or something, huh?
We can certainly talk about it. It's just never come up until now. With the agreement that we worked out when
Thank you,
Cynthia and I
Brian.
talked about it was purely whatever hours they work at the school, they get, the city gets reimbursed for those hours, so.
Brian, I was going to ask you one more question. I was trying to figure to stay up here. Are we going to have a backup officer, say, the assigned officer, something happens and is laid up for 3, 4, 5 days? Are we going to have a backup officer trained and ready to fulfill that position?
So
Because
as-
once we fulfill a contract with them, we need to have an officer there.
As it sits right now with what our staff level is, we don't really have the staffing to send another officer to that training and have that other officer not be at our disposal. With our numbers right now and staffing and everything else we have going on, we don't have the manpower to have 2 people that are set for that responsibility. If it came to the point where we had another officer in the absence of something that an officer could be at the school, say if we had extra staffing during that day or our staffing levels improved down the road, we could always, if somebody wanted to do that, we could have somebody that would go to that training as a backup. But again, I think you have to remember that it's still a backup person for when that other person's not there. And the school and the students are going to build up a pretty strong rapport with the person that's there. So your backup person is going to be very hit and miss. But I do agree that down the road, that's something that we can look at. It's just right now with what we're dealing with staffing levels and being able to cover other things for the city, we wouldn't have that person readily available.
Okay, I was just curious because, if we go with the contract and if God forbid, one of the officers is laid up and can't be there for a couple days, is the school going to be okay with that?
I think the contract calls for on the 3rd day, or if we know it's going to be an extended absence for more than 3 days, or that language is in the contract, then it says
Yeah, it is.
that there would be an expectation of having some type of a sub or additional support that is
As available.
assigned to.
As available is how it was written, correct?
So,
So we want to plan for something if it was going to be longer than a couple of days. But generally, we know we can cover and we'll need to cover.
And how
days here.
many hours are they going to be out there during the week?
I don't think we want to discuss that.
I don't.
Well, during the school year, we're looking at a 40-hour work week. And so the hours of the days, though, will adjust because it may be during the school day. If we have an afternoon or an evening activity that we need coverage at, then their day may shift. So we won't necessarily have identified hours within.
The particular nature of this type of position too, you're not going to have a set schedule that we're going to share with the public.
Right. But I just
Or a
think the hours a week,
location.
how many hours we're putting in.
Right.
You know, it's full-time.
And then when we discussed this last year, we talked about when the DARE officer was out there, that those hours could be filled that way? Is that still on or not?
This is something that the school resource officer could do, would be to provide that programming. And then if there's
that how we do it,
additional
Brian?
support needed for it, we can look at that.
Currently, we do not have the DARE program in within that. Right now, we only have DARE in St. John's. But that's something that we can always look at or implement down the road.
If the school decides to, sure.
Depends on cricketer availability, then, I mean, if it's twofold.
Yeah, that could be an opportunity.
So the contract's scheduled to start April 1st of 2025. Are we going to be able to, if we sign this agreement, are we going to be able to put that in effect?
So you have to remember, this is a 2080 agreement that enables us to put the position out there. That starts the 1st of April. That does not necessarily mean that we're going to have a person in that position April 1 working.
Okay.
It just means the agreement is in place.
Somebody already trained up, somebody that
Right.
already comes with their SRO certification and hours of training and so on. If that happened to be the case, and that's the person that fit for the job and so on, maybe it could start before the end of the school year. There's some assumption that if that is not the case and there's going to need to be training happening and so on, really we'd probably be looking at a summertime transition. That would give some time to start to figure out some of our operating procedures, and then really they would be there ready to go when school starts in the fall.
Captain, do we have anybody certified currently? Because I thought at one point we
do not. Like I said, the first class that we've seen is in June. So we would, if we have somebody that's for that bid job, they go in June. And then, like Cynthia said, we still have to go through our standard operating procedures and hammer all that out. So we still have quite a bit to do to get to this point. This is just kind of our starting point.
We'd be doing good to do it at the start of next year.
I think we can hit that. I think we can hit the start of next year. This item is really just to get the 2080 agreement in place so that we can move forward with the next steps.
Start working out some of the details.
Any further questions for either of them?
Thank
Okay.
Thank you.
I would just like
Thank you.
to
Thank you.
appreciate the partnership and appreciate the conversation. We do think this is valuable for both of us, and so just really appreciate the opportunity to hopefully have this work. So
I personally think it's a win-win for the school and the city both, because it'll allow the younger generation of our community to realize officers aren't there just to get you when you're in trouble. They're there to help you out at any time. And in Arizona, I saw some tremendous results from resource officers in the schools down there.
there are so many different resources that a partnership with law enforcement can bring that we don't have access to.
Absolutely.
So it just really builds the
Yeah,
value.
it's a win-win situation.
So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so any further discussion with respect to the 28E agreement? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote again.
O'Laughlin,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Rusarter.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Next, we move to item number 15, sorry. This is a motion to authorize the city manager to sell the K-9 and provide any remaining K-9 equipment to the Buchanan County Sheriff's K-9 program.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, so as you are aware, we no longer have a K-9 program in effect for the city itself, so we need to make some type of an arrangement with respect to the K-9. And we've got some information we're working on in terms of how we're going to solve that.
We believe we have a third party that can help us sell it to another department, and that process has been initiated.
Okay.
Where's the dog at now?
Right now, I believe it's in Minnesota in that third party's hand. Because it has to be, before you can sell a dog like that, it has to be assessed to find out whether or not it can be rebound to a new trainer, so on and so forth, all the different things that go into that.
And what about our funds that are in that account?
So any of those funds that were in the K-9 account would remain in the police department. The intent would be for them to be reused for the police department's expenses.
Does that just automatically happen, or?
Yeah.
We also had a city attorney opinion on that in terms of how we would deal with the money, and that was the opinion that we got from them as well.
And the money will stay in the city police department and not be used for anything else.
Correct. Correct.
Other discussion, conversation about this?
I think there needs to be more discussion on where the money goes, because that money was given for the dog.
City attorney made it very clear that any return of funds would be a violation of Iowa state law.
I read that part, but
Do we have a list of equipment that would be going to the Buchanan County Sheriff
It would be minor things like a harness, leashes, things like that. Not
for them to use in their?
correct. Yeah. The actual vest that was donated, Brian, correct. Help me. Who donates the ballistic vest?
That come from the,
Oh, it comes from
it's a national
nationwide.
organization.
I
Yeah.
can't remember
I can't either.
the company's name.
But I know that the vest is going with the dog
They're
because it's
custom
fit to the dog.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Brian, one other question. How long has the third party had the dog at this time?
I believe about a week to 10 days.
And they're totally satisfied so far at this time?
As the information that I've heard, yes, based on the dog's age and the abilities that they've seen. Like I said, and when Chief Eater took the dog there, we were told that they would have the dog for at least a week or two to do a full evaluation, so.
Yeah, because you need a transition period to find out if it will work for them or not.
Correct.
And as of right now, everything's working good.
Correct, yep.
Okay.
are we giving them the dog, or is there a fee?
Selling.
Selling.
Further discussion?
The only other discussion I have is the point Deb brought up on the funds. The funds was provided for the training of the dog and everything, if I'm not mistaken, and the training did happen and take place, correct?
Yes, of course.
And so therefore, the funds did get used for what it was donated for. Unfortunately, the dog's moving on, but if that dog did not have that training, the dog would not be worth selling to someone else either, so it got used for what it was supposed to have been used for.
But not the additional funds.
I'm not sure what the current status of the funds are. What's
There's a
remaining?
K-9
No, I know that.
account.
I just
How
don't-
much is in the account?
I don't, that I do not know.
It's approximately $56,000. The other issue you get into if you try to return the funds, and again, this is stuff that the city attorney's advised the council on, you try to return the funds to individuals who have claimed that on property, or on, not property, but on income tax forms, that creates a tax issue because they've already gotten credit for that donation, and then you return it back to them. Plus, you get on the side of the city would then have to consider that a gift. We'd have to issue 1099s for it, all the different things that go into that. And then that's where it becomes a violation of state law because the city cannot gift funds, public funds, to an individual.
I understand that point, but if I gave money for that dog, that's where I'd want it to go, was with that dog. And I think it's gonna hurt us down the road, because when the city has something and we want to raise funds for it, well, are you gonna use it for that, or are you gonna shift it?
Well, I think that while we look at long-term planning, Deb, at some point in time, we're going to end up with an Independence K-9 unit again.
So with that being said, then we should leave the money set in an account
Definitely a possibility.
and use it for that.
Definitely a possibility.
Why don't we discuss the funding issues and stuff at the work session next week, if that works for everybody?
That'd be fine.
Any further discussion with regard to the authority to sell the dog and to
I think
move forward?
the only question I would have is maybe we should wait until the April work session to have that discussion so that I can have the city attorney here to answer questions as well.
That works too? Okay, we'll do that.
So in April work session?
April work session.
First Monday in April?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, further discussion with regard to this motion then? Hearing none, this would be a roll call vote.
Jensen,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Hannah,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Crusader,
Yes.
O'Laughlin.
Yes.
Okay, that passes 6-0. Next we move to reports. First, we have the Police Department monthly report. This is the opportunity to talk about the numbers and calculations and other things that are on the report itself, not to talk about anything that might be going on in the Police Department itself. So does anybody have any questions with regard to the monthly report numbers? I know that February we had 203 incidences that we were involved in. That's down a little bit from January, where it was 375, I think, but it's also a shorter month in February.
What do we do with the homeless? I see we had 4 homeless this last. What's the protocol?
Brian, you want to answer that for us, please?
So when you see the numbers on there, you're seeing a number of, if you see the number of 4,
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean that we had 4 different homeless people. That was just 4 calls for service.
Oh.
That particular one, we had a gentleman not from around here, from out of state, and he kind of took up in town for a few days. We had multiple calls on it. We had officers reach out to several places for help. Our law enforcement liaison, we offered several things to help that gentleman. He refused absolutely all. It got to the point where he was trespassed from several businesses in town, and at that point in time, he decided to leave town on his bicycle. So the number 4 that you see there is the same one person. It just,
Oh,
we had
okay.
multiple calls on it.
Okay, I didn't know.
Thanks for that explanation,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, so is there any other questions of the monthly report itself?
No, I'm just always amazed of how many times the police are called out for various things. It's always,
They're a lot more active than people realize.
exactly, that's exactly what I meant by that.
Between the police department and fire department, I see we had 12 assists with medical. 8 for the PD and 4 for the fire department. Are we reimbursed at all from the ambulance service if they?
We are not reimbursed at the present time. We're still working with the state with regard to our
First responder.
first responder status. And our agreement with the ambulance service was that when we had our first responder status, that we work out some type of a reimbursement agreement at that point in time, assuming that we're still in.
Although that's getting off track of the actual issue that we're talking about.
I was just trying to answer his question for him. Okay, so let's move to item number 17 under the reports then. This is the Fire Department monthly report. We had 20 incident reports, down from 23 in January, so pretty similar. Anybody have any questions that we can direct to the Fire Department about that?
Same thing, they keep themselves busy.
Absolutely.
Is our burn ban lifted, or is that back on?
It's been lifted at this point. I don't know that the county has issued another one at this point.
Must be getting close.
Okay, let's move then to 18, which is the Building Department monthly report. You'll notice on the report, it's a 2-month report that we get from them. We had 43 permits issued, about $6,000 in income from the report from the permits themselves, and the project value was about $1.3 million. So you can see that we're thriving to an extent moving forward. I've got a report that I'm working on and hope to get out shortly to everybody about new construction in town and what developers we have and what they're building and what they have for inventory, et cetera. So I'm working on that. I hope to have that out to everybody within the next week or two.
Surprisingly, a lot of the new construction is already sold.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely great. Okay, so anybody have any questions for Matt about his report? I really like the format, by the way, in terms of being able to to really look at these and see the addresses and see what's going on. And I think it's great that it's working out the way that it is. Okay, if there's no further questions about that, then we move to 19, which is the ILPT report. Does anybody have any questions with regard to that? Okay, hearing none, let's move to council member reports.
I had a question on the status of the speed cameras.
Why don't we wait until Matt's report, and then he'll try to answer something if he can at that point. Does that work for you? Okay. Brett, you want to start off?
I have nothing, Mayor.
Okay. Gavin?
Nothing?
The only thing I have since the last meeting was the chamber event was a fantastic turnout, and congratulations to all those that won the awards at the chamber event. And yesterday, in our tour above downtown, that took place yesterday, Brad and I were both downtown for that event, and there must have been, a good over 100 people.
Yeah, they had 115 that had signed up.
115 was the final?
And I think that there were a few people that came in after the signups and actually.
So we had roughly 115, 120 people downtown yesterday that toured a lot of the buildings and the apartments and everything. And I heard nothing but fantastic comments from people. And every store, they gave tremendous detail about back when the building was first built, all the businesses that had been in it, who's transpired and everything. It was very, very informative. A lot was to be learned yesterday on that.
And I might add that this was a library function itself. This is part of the One Book Indie program, because the part of the book relates to some things that correlate with the apartments upstairs and fire and that sort of thing. So if you have a chance to read the book, that's a good read as well.
And that's it.
Okay, Brian, anything?
Good, Mayor, thank you.
No, I'll wait for Matt's report on it.
Okay.
I have nothing at this time.
Okay, I just have a couple things. Dan Walter, who's the president of the Buchanan County EMS Association, is in contact with me, and they are applying for a grant in order to purchase an ambulance for the 2026 time period when the contract will be running out. And they're asking for support letters from us. So I know that I'm going to do one. I don't know if any of the rest of you have any interest. If you do, they're going to send us basically the format in terms of what they need for it. They'll send that to Matt. Just tell Matt that you're interested in doing it, and then we'll get you to sign one as well. Okay?
Those are due Wednesday, right?
They're due on Wednesday. That's correct.
This Wednesday, 2 days from now?
2 days from now, yes. What are you doing between now and then, Brian? Come on.
I'm just going to send a text to the city manager telling him my orders.
a couple of other things that are going on. We talked about the upstairs, downstairs tour. The Rotary Club Spaghetti Dinner at the high school is tomorrow night, 5 to 7. They have a nice drive-through. They got some old guy that's running spaghetti back and forth between there and the car. I'll do my best, though. And the last item is our work session being continued to next week from March the 3rd. So, Matt, do you have anything?
A couple things. So we got RFPs back on trash service on Friday, and we'll have that on the March 17th work session to discuss with the council. We've got quite a few bids from four different contractors, so I'm glad to see those people interested in the solid waste for the city of Independence. And the other thing that I was going to point out was I got a phone call from Ashley Henson's office today related to the fiscal year 2025 community project funding request we had made, where they were supposed to award us $4 million, and then that got reduced to $2 million, and it is now reduced to $0 because, let me explain why, because no projects were included in the funding request that was done over the weekend for the House of Representatives at the federal level. So they've asked that we reapply for the fiscal year 2026, and I'm going to do that. They're going to send us some information, and we will reapply for that, and we'll see where we land this time. So,
This is for the wastewater treatment plant, right?
correct, wastewater treatment plant, yes, sir.
I would encourage all our representatives, all of us to call our representative. Email can be easily thrown away, but a voicemail is something that,
But it said in what I think I forwarded that to you, that the governor wanted to put funding out there for that. So
That's a separate funding stream, though. I'm talking about the
That's
federal level.
separate.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm talking about the federal level request through Ashley Henson's office.
okay.
We're looking at as many funding sources as we possibly can, obviously.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's one thing I don't think our constituents know, how much we beat the bushes looking for funding for things.
Yeah. It's a lot of my job. So, working on it as much as I can. Related to the speed cameras, I really don't have a good update for you, other than I know that we filed the appeal that we were supposed to file. I don't know, Brian, if you have anything other than that, but that's the most information that I have at this point, is that we filed the appeal, and we're waiting on the DOT to consider that.
Yeah, all I can do is confirm what you said, Matt, that we filed the appeal. We just haven't heard back yet. So we're still kind of in limbo, just waiting.
Yeah.
Brian, you probably don't know, but there were several cities that appealed as well. Are they taking them all at once, or are they taking them, as they come along, or do you have any information on whether anybody's been successful?
We just had that deadline of when those appeals had to be filed, and we haven't heard anything back after those appeals were made. And I haven't heard anything from other communities as well as hearing back on their appeals. So as of right now, I think we're all just kind of sitting and waiting.
Okay, thank you for that.
thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
The only other thing that I was going to bring up to everyone, if you would like some light reading, feel free to take a look at HSB 313 and SSB 1208. Those are the companion property tax bills that have been introduced.
Can you say that again?
Absolutely. HSB 313 and SSB 1208. Those are the companion property tax bills that have been introduced at the state legislative level. It's a complete rework of the property tax code and the way things work in Iowa. It's worth your time to read it. It also includes a 2% cap year over year.
I did read that. It sounds like we're going to get less and less money.
Yes.
That was my take on it. So are they looking at other funding sources to help out communities like ours that rely heavily upon?
There's nothing included in the bill that would allude to that, no.
So the cost of all projects increase and state funding decreases.
I've read them, but
I would just encourage you all to read them, and anybody listening online, I would encourage you to read them as well and reach out to your
So could you
representative. with
repeat
your-
that a third time? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. HSB 313 and SSB 1208. I'm working on a news article related to property taxes for the city, and I'll be putting that out hopefully this week. I'm close to complete on it, but it's going to have a lot of math in it. So if you have questions or you need help reading through it, going through it, reach out and let me know, because our current property tax system is pretty complicated. So,
Well, I think two things are coming out of this. I don't think people realize how much things have been cut and how we're struggling with the way we're being financed. The second part of that is, I don't think people realize how much we reach out to try to get grants and other ways to help pay for things. So we're only paying for a small portion of things that we have for our city. And I just really hope people come to an understanding how hard some of the work that's being done to make sure we have some nice things for our taxpayers.
Yep.
The one other thing that I forgot about is that with the passing of Tom Houston, I know you had I wasn't here last time, but everybody, there was a moment of silence for him. I know that in terms of filling his seat, we've decided to go by the appointment route at this point in time anyway. So it's Fifth Ward, so anybody living in Fifth Ward, applications are due by next Monday, right?
March 17th.
And then
Is that right? No?
No, it's 19th,
Oh,
the 19th.
Wednesday, okay.
Wednesday.
the 19th, and then the 24th, which is going to be a busy day for all of us, apparently. That's the time where we'll select from anybody that's completed the application process.
May I ask, do we have anybody that's applied yet at this time?
There's at least one that's applied. I don't know if there's more than one that's applied, but I know that there's at least one that's applied.
Will we review those before the council meeting, or?
Yes. Oh, well,
How it was done before is during the council meeting, council had the opportunity to look at the people that applied. You picked one, and that was it.
So they'll go out, the applications will be included in the packet when we send that out then?
Yes.
Okay, so
you
you'll have
will.
over the weekend at least to review the packet of, anybody who's applied from that perspective.
So we have all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday to
Right.
review it, ask questions.
Right.
You want to make a personal phone call to whoever those people are and speak to them personally, find out?
okay. All right, then that's all we need to do then. So I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So move.
I have a
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. We stand adjourned.